Michael Flynn, General Flynn, is a wonderful man. I think he's been treated very, very unfairly by the media, as I call it, the fake media in many cases. And I think it's really a sad thing that he was treated so badly. I think in addition to that, from intelligence, papers are being leaked, things are being leaked. It's criminal action, criminal act. And it's been going on for a long time, before me. But now it's really going on. And people are trying to cover up for a terrible loss that the Democrats had under Hillary Clinton. I think it's very, very unfair what's happened to General Flynn, the way he was treated, and the documents and papers that were illegally, I stress that, illegally leaked. Very, very unfair.
All right, that was President Trump earlier today at the White House talking about Mike Flynn's resignation and the leaks coming from intelligence agencies. Now, prior to the press conference earlier this morning, Trump tweeted, quote, "The real scandal here is the classified information is illegally given out by intelligence, like candy, very un-American." Joining us now with reaction, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Congressman Devin Nunes is with us. Congressman, good to see you again. Isn't it a crime, in fact, to leak this information? Isn't it a violation of the Espionage Act, among other things?
Well, there could have been multiple crimes here committed, Sean, but for sure, leaking of classified information is punishable by law. And this needs to be looked into by the appropriate agencies. And in fact, our committee is going to be requesting that the agencies actually look into this and try to bring these perpetrators accountable and hold them accountable under the law.
Okay, I want to go back, and this was a little notice piece in the New York Times in the waning days of the administration, and it actually said the Obama administration expanded the power of the National Security Agency to share globally intercepted personnel communications with the government's 16 other intelligence agencies before applying privacy protections. Does that mean the list of potential leakers is that much bigger or not?
Well, if that's the case, we were never notified of that at the House Intelligence Committee. What I will say, Sean, is that it's not just about what leaked, the transcripts that leaked on General Flynn. It's also about the transcripts that Donald Trump talking to the Mexican president, talking to the Australian Prime Minister, those also leaked. So this is a state here that's falling apart. And it's totally unacceptable for anyone within government to be doing this. Now, I think most of this is probably from people who were in the old administration, but there still could be some people that have burrowed in and are providing classified information to the media, which is totally unacceptable.
It's clearly a violation of law, is it not, Congressman? And isn't this the type of thing where if you have rogue intelligence people, and they're illegally intercepting phone calls of Americans, that's the illegal. And this, in other words, if in fact they wanted to get the intel or for example, hack into the phone of in this particular case, General Flynn, wouldn't they have to get a court subpoena to do so?
That's correct. And I am not aware that they did that. So my guess is that the intelligence agencies did not do this. What I'm assuming is that this was picked up as they were tracking someone else. And if that's the case, that would have had to go up to the highest levels of the Obama administration to get approval to unmask who that person is. And in this case, it was General Flynn. And then, if you really look at these leaks, Sean, it looks like these original leaks that were leaked to the media happened in the beginning of January.
Yeah,
I mean, so that would mean it would...
Would you recommend the
Attorney General?
Would you recommend the Attorney General convene a grand jury to get to the bottom of this?
Well, look, I think the first thing that has to happen is the FBI needs to do a full investigation of this and try to track down these leakers.
Congressman, thank you very much. Great danger here. Joining us now with more reaction is Iowa Congressman Steve King. He said what happened to Mike Flynn was a political assassination. Congressman, thank you for being here. Explain what you mean.
Well, Sean, and thanks for having me on. What I've just watched this happen, it looks like it was a strategic plan that was unfolded and kind of synchronized. That the intel that was gathered perhaps by someone within the FBI at the time, less likely one of our other branches or components of the intelligence community, and then strategically released and leaked the information to do the maximum amount of damage to Mike Flynn. And we've known for weeks now that the long knives had come out for him. This looks like a strategic plan, and I'm not excusing the part that was the miscommunications and the dishonesty that was at least alleged, but that was between President Trump, Vice President Pence, and General Flynn. And now I agree with all that I've heard Chairman Nunes say, but I would specifically say that the federal statute that's violated is 18 U.S.C. 798. What makes it clear that it's a felony facing up to 10 years in the penitentiary for communicating any classified information that is retrieved through our signal intelligence communications.
Well, I have
It's
18
just that
U.S.
simple.
Code 798 in front of me, the disclosure of classified information. Whoever knowingly, willfully communicates, furnishes, transmits, or otherwise makes available to an unauthorized person or publishes or uses in any manner prejudicial to the safety and interests of the United States for the benefit of any foreign government to the detriment of the United States, any classified information. That's what the code said. Do you have any doubt crimes were committed here?
I have no doubt. And I agree exactly with Devin Nunes that that information, if it was obtained through a FISA warrant, for example, there's no way that that information could come out and be released. And so now we have, I believe, someone who either was embedded within the FBI or another component of the intelligence community that willfully leaked this to the New York Times and the Washington Post. And now we have a nation of leftists that are hyperventilating over what actually now are rumors, because we don't have the transcript of those telephone calls. We don't have a single phrase that's we know with confidence is accurately quoted that was transmitted. But we have these long stories that are coming out, and now the Democrats have created an entire narrative about this, and they're trying to get the whole nation wrapped up in this, but they were never worried about Hillary Clinton's real-time leakage of highly classified information while she was Secretary of State.
Congressman, we always appreciate you being with us. Thank you. And coming up tonight, Deputy Assistant to the President, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, weighs in on U.S.-Russia relations, and also later tonight.
Under your leadership, I believe we can reverse the rising tide of radical Islam.
History in the making. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the White House today and during a press conference praised President Trump's leadership. We'll check in with Ari Fleischer and Steve Hilton. They'll join us. All of that, plus House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Welcome back to Hannity. So earlier today, President Trump welcomed the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House. Now, President Trump has vowed now to restore relations with Israel. And here are some highlights from today's historic press conference. Take a look.
Bibi and I have known each other a long time. A smart man, great negotiator, and I think we're going to make a deal. So let's see what we do.
Let's try it.
Doesn't sound too optimistic, but that's he's a good negotiator.
That's the art of the deal. Under your leadership, I believe we can reverse the rising tide of radical Islam. And in this great task, as in so many others, Israel stands with you, and I stand with you. There is no greater supporter of the Jewish people and the Jewish state than President Donald Trump. I think we should put that to rest.
Here now with reaction, former White House Press Secretary Ari Fleischer, former advisor to UK Prime Minister David Cameron. Fox News contributor Steve Hilton is back with us. Ari, let me start here because you could see the friendliness, the relationship that goes back so far, dramatic shift from the last 8 years, certainly, and also they both are very strong in their criticism of radical Islam. Here's what stood out to me. Donald Trump talked, well, one-state, two-state solution. Then he went on to say we can do something much bigger, much better. And then I put that together with what the Prime Minister said. You know, for the first time in his life, Arab countries in the region do not see Israel increasingly as anything other than an ally, and that this is a historic opportunity. Here's my interpretation of that. Based on the comments of the Egyptian president, General al-Sisi, and the Jordanians, and a new emerging relationship with Saudi Arabia, if you add in the Brits, could there be a coalition to stop Iranian hegemony in the region and the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran? Is this happening? Is that what they're both indicating?
You just nailed it. That's exactly right, and that's profound. And, you know, Sean, in a week in which everybody in Washington wants to talk about personnel, This is why there's no more important personnel than the president himself. And instead of having a policy, which we had for the last 8 years under President Obama, which was how do we make life better for Iran, we now have a policy of how do we make life better for America in the Middle East. And that means standing by our best ally, the only democracy in the Middle East, Israel. And recognizing the great strategic change underway in the Middle East is this realliance of Sunni Arabs, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, the UAE, along with Israel, against Iran. That's the profound difference, and it's a fundamental, wonderful change in the Middle East.
I agree, Steve, complete with Ari. What happened today was historic, it was deep, it was profound, and I do believe because Israel has created new alliances that had never existed before with the Saudis, Jordanians, Egyptians. If you add the U.S. to that equation and you add the U.K. to that equation, you now have a coalition to defeat what I think is evil in our time, the #1 state sponsor of terror that burns the Israeli flag, burns the U.S. flag, chants death to Israel, death to America, and that is the Iranian mullahs. Do you see it the same way?
I really do, Sean. I think it's so exciting. I think you're completely right. Ari's right. And one of the things that's so refreshing is not just the fact that you've got a president who is so clearly, strongly and warmly committed to Israel, it's that he's prepared to move beyond the failed approaches of the past and actually really shake things up. One of the things that I really hate about the way that the insiders and the experts all criticize Trump is that they say, well, he's not following protocol, he's not doing the usual diplomatic stuff, he's doing his own thing. That's exactly what we need, because the old way of doing things hasn't worked.
That's so deep.
And I think,
yeah, I agree. It's really profound. You know, one state, two state, or bigger and better, and an opportunity. And I think, Ari, look, you've been around a long time. I can't think of a better time than now to actually create a broad coalition that could really lead to a lasting peace in the Middle East. And, of course, that would also mean less U.S. involvement there that I know every American would prefer.
And it's a recognition that the Arab nations really don't have Palestinians as their first #1 issue the way the foreign policy establishment in Washington has thought they've had it for decades. They have their own survival as their #1 issue. And in that sense, they are working with Israel because they see the threat coming from Iran. And it's great if we can isolate Iran, diminish Iran, and hopefully empower the people of Iran, especially the young people of Iran, because you have the Shiite alliance involving Iran, Syria, and Hezbollah. You talk about the new axis of evil, those three, and we can now have a different coalition. But we're doing it because we're doing what's principally right for America, which is to stand with Israel, to stop this nonsense about we need daylight between us and Israel. No, we need to support our allies, and it's a welcome sign of change in Washington.
You know, before Donald Trump's appearance on the world stage, Steve, I would argue that the only world leader that had moral clarity and understood the real nature of the threat of radical Islam, he stood alone, was the Prime Minister. Now he has a staunch ally that agrees and supports everything he says. We may look back at this moment as the starting point, potentially, for a longer and lasting peace, hopefully, in the Middle East. Thank you both. Quick programming note. Be sure to tune in, 10 Eastern, tomorrow night. The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, will join us. And coming up next tonight, right here on Hannity.
Obamacare, as you know, is a total and complete disaster. So we're going to end up with tremendous health care at a lower price.
The president promising Obamacare will be repealed, will be replaced, and it can't come soon enough. Humana announcing that they will pull out of the exchanges in 2018. Aetna's CEO said the disastrous health care law is now in a death spiral. We'll ask Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy and